Hey everybody, this is Cindy, and this video is how to know if you or somebody has an entity and how to get rid of it if you do. So what is an entity? So there's a lot of things you can call an entity, but the entities that I'm actually talking about today are the ones that are negative energy forms or negative spirits that attach to you and affect how you feel and affect how you act, and most likely how you look too. So let's get into this. First of all, how can you tell if somebody has a negative entity? Common signs would be a person is super negative. I mean, like really negative. Like there's people who have a negative outlook, but I'm talking about people that are really kind of an ugly negative, overly negative, overly snappy, like just really kind of angry. People that wish bad on other people openly, and just that aren't acting normal. And some people might seem like that's how they normally are because they've had entities all the time, and that's just how you see them or know them or know people who are like that. But then there's people like in your family, like your lover or your kids or your aunt or your mother or your father, whoever, or yourself, that might unknowingly pick up entities. So this subject can be really big. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So I had this student once, and this was years ago, and I was teaching this manifesting with alchemy class, and there was several people in the class. I don't know how many, maybe 14 or something. And we were sitting in the classroom, and I was going to lead them in a meditation to do the to do the technique for this manifesting class. So everybody closes their eyes, and I'm like getting in the zone. And sometimes when I'm leading meditations, I close my eyes too. Sometimes I don't, but I get in the zone with everybody, but I still lead the meditation. So I'm just like thinking everybody's got their eyes closed and we're all getting into the amazing, powerful energy. And somehow I just happened to look up, and the student that's actually sitting right directly in front of me is looking at me, and she's got this scowl on her face, just like the dirtiest look on her face. And I'm like, what's going on? Everybody's supposed to have their eyes closed. And I always tell people, like, when we're in meditation and I'm giving, the guided instructions, if there's something you don't understand, or if you don't know if you're doing it right, then just go with it. Just don't get caught up in one area and then miss the rest. Just like go, okay, whatever, I can ask her later or whatever, and just keep going, right? And this meditation was really long. It was probably 35 or 40 minutes. And so I believe it was within the first 8 minutes that she opened her eyes. So, being that I'm guiding this meditation, it's not like I can just stop and ask her what's wrong, because everybody else in the class was just going all into it. So the whole time I just had her, and she's just sitting there and arms crossed and glaring at me, and I'm still like, what in the heck is this woman's problem? So we get through the whole meditation finally, and I'm asking people, so how was it? Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments? Anything you want to share? And this woman says to me, I can't understand your English. And I'm like, what? She's like, well, I can't understand your English. And so, how do you respond to that? I mean, I'm like, and she's really angry, right? And everybody else is kind of like, what? And I go, it's my first language, and I thought I spoke it pretty well, but if I don't speak English well enough, I don't know what to really tell you. this is the best English I can speak. And being that it was a meditation, that means I was speaking even more slowly. Now, she was from Peru. And so, anyway, so I was like, what is her trip? So then, okay, whatever, that was weird. And then we just go on with our stuff. And then the next class, she comes in and we're talking about, I don't remember what, but we're talking and sharing. And she says that she's really annoyed. She hates it when she goes for walks because she might see somebody and she might have to say hello to them. And she doesn't want to have to say hello to anybody when she's walking. And the way she said it was really like angry and everything. And I was like, wow, well, just because you see somebody on your walk doesn't mean you necessarily have to say hello to them. Just don't look at them. Put on sunglasses. Just ignore them. But nothing to really get that upset about or mad about. So it was like this repeated sort of comments of like these little bursts of angers over things that really were like strange. Like normally you wouldn't get upset about walking and having to say hello to somebody if you saw them. If you didn't want to say hello, you just don't look at them. That's easy enough. And so this kept repeating more and more, and I was thinking, what is this woman's problem? So then I just realized, oh, I bet you she's got an entity. And so, that was because she was so annoyed and little things bothered her that seemingly most people that wouldn't probably bother. And she was just very odd, her behavior. So when I thought about, oh, she must have an entity, so I did a removal on her and she got way better. She wasn't talking about all this little stupid stuff anymore. So that's one way to notice. Just like if somebody's kind of really always saying off the wall things and getting angry about the littlest stupidest things when normally they wouldn't, or if you don't know them and they're acting like that and you have to be around them, it'd be worth checking out to see if they have an entity. Another example is somebody that I was dating before, and he was like acting so like such a jerk. Like he was just acting up, he was just like coming home whenever he wanted to and just being in a bitchy mood and just not being a nice person, just not being nice. And that really wasn't normal of him. So I was like, one day he was off at work and I was looking at his energy and I was like, what are those? I saw two angels, one on each side of him. And they were like the ugliest angels I've ever seen in my life. They were just like, and I don't know, usually angels either look just like energy to me, so they could just look like white or a color, or they could take shape. Like usually the regular angels, not the archangels. So the archangels are the ones with the big wings. And the seraphim angels have 6 wings and they're huge, huge, huge because they're planetary angels. But the archangels are they have a lot of specialties and they are really powerful angels. Not that all angels are powerful, so there's not one that's better than the others. But then I call them the regular angels, that they don't have wings, and there's lots and lots of angels. You can call the romance angels, the parking angels, the money angels, any kind of angels you can call on them, your guardian angels. So usually the ones that are just the regular angels, I usually see them just as light. So anyway, I saw these 2 angels standing on each side of him, and they were so like scary looking. They were all like decrepit looking and like dehydrated and like wrinkly and really scary. And then they had wings. And I was like, what are those angels? I have never seen angels like that before. I was like, he has some really ugly angels. Like they're scary looking. Oh my gosh, I was totally tripping off of it. Now, I'm someone that's used to seeing angels, and these angels just caught me off guard. I just didn't know what to think about it. And then I realized that they actually were not angels. they were actually entities posing as angels in hopes that I wouldn't notice that they were entities so they could stay there. Now, these were some smart entities. So you've got a whole range of entities, okay, out there. There's some entities that aren't that strong and they'll just go if you tell them to go. But then there's other entities that are pretty stubborn and mean and don't want to leave and will do everything they can to not leave. And usually those will say, I don't have to leave unless they tell me I have to leave. And a lot of times that happens when you're working with somebody that you can't it's not that you can't tell them, but it would scare people if you told them that they have an entity normally. Like if someone told me that, I wouldn't be scared. I'd just get rid of it. I mean, I've found entities in me before, so I'll tell you about that. But usually it's like when they know it's going to be harder for you to tell this person that they have an entity, they'll say that because then they don't have to leave. So I'll tell a story about that one too. But anyway, getting back to these two tricky entities posing as angels. So I was like, oh my gosh, they're really smart. They're just trying to hide. Well, sorry, you didn't do a good job because you totally caught my attention. And so I said, you know, and I started to remove them. Now, this guy I was dating, he totally was always open to me doing healings on him or doing anything, clearing his energy. He didn't care. He was fine. He liked it. But he wasn't that good about taking care of his own energy. And so, like, he would go to bars, and, you know, bars are a place that you'll pick up on entities, especially when alcohol is involved. When you are under the influence of alcohol or people like that, they usually can pick up on entities really easy because it's an easy way for them to get into you. First of all, they're in that atmosphere of drama and usually people with their problems and just sloppy and drunk, and so it's easy for them to get into your energy when you're in that, and if you're drinking, even more. So anyway, so they said we don't have to leave unless he tells us to leave, so that was easy. I just called him at work and I said, I see two entities posing as angels in your energy, can I remove them? And he said yes. And I said, and can do you give permission to Archangel Michael to stay with you and protect you and keep you, you know, free of these entities? And he said yes. And then I said, okay, goodbye, and hung up. So I'm sure he's like, oh my gosh, in the middle of work, but okay. So I removed them. And they had to go because he said he wanted them to go. They have to go if you tell them, if the person says you have to go. Now, even if someone tells you that it's okay for them to go, sometimes subconsciously or consciously, they may not want it to leave for whatever reason that it's serving them. And sometimes they really do want it to go, but they're really stubborn. I mean, I've removed entities that have been passed down generations to generation. Those things are really tough, man. They're like glued to you, like they're almost a part of your body. But I've removed them. I've been able to remove them. You can get rid of them. And so anyway, I got rid of those, and then I met him for dinner later that day, and oh my gosh, 100% different. Nice, sweet, loving, funny, happy, completely different just from doing that. And I told him, you need to watch your energy if you're going to be hanging out in places where you're going to pick up on entities, because you've been being a real jerk. And he said, oh, well, you need to clear my energy more often. Like, don't put it on me, dude. But so anyway, after that, every time he came home and he'd come, like if he came in the bedroom and laid on the bed or something, I don't care if he was sleeping or awake, I would start burning sage around him and ringing bells and rattling rattles around him. And he'd be like, like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, don't you bring that energy home to this house. I have a nice Zen room here, and you're going to bring in that energy. No way. I'll sage your butt every time you come in here. So anyway, I just made a practice of doing that. And if you're around somebody that goes out and drinks and parties or whatever, it's really in your best interest to keep clearing that person and the space you're living in, because they're just bringing that home with them. Okay, there was another time when I was doing this exercise, I'm seeing angels around me, called boot camp. And so I was, going every day to work out at this boot camp with these women. I didn't know anybody. And they were mostly like housewives and suburban and blah, blah, blah. So we were doing this really hard hike one day, and I don't remember how, but somebody found out what I do, because I don't really just go around telling people what I do. I usually just keep it to myself. I don't talk about it. And I don't remember how, but they found out what I do, and we were walking, and so they were like not sure, like, okay, but is like she working with good stuff or bad stuff? And so this lady's like, so, but like, tell me, because I told her I talk to dead people, I do angel readings, I do alternative healing, and I teach alternative healing classes and so on and so forth. And she goes, okay, but let me just get this straight. I mean, like, are you Christian? Do you believe in Jesus? What kind of beliefs are you coming from? And I said, well, I mean, I'm baptized Christian. I mean, I was brought up in religion all my life. My mother was actually, before she got married, she was becoming a nun. And her parents, unfortunately, pulled her out. And I say unfortunately, I wouldn't have been born to her, I guess, and it was all a part of the bigger plan, but she really liked it there, and so that was sad. But so she was coming from a background of being a nun. And then when my parents got married, my mom was Catholic and my father was Baptist. And then they became Mormon. And so when we were very young, I became a Mormon. And then we just grew up Mormon, basically. And then when we went to school, and when my parents divorced, and I moved to San Francisco with my mom and my sisters and my brother, she put us in private school, Catholic, I went to a Lutheran school for a while too, but mostly Catholic private schools, just because she didn't feel like the public school system was very good. So, we were always in the Catholic, going to Mass with our class, or, if they were having their first communion or whatever else, confirmation. So, we were always around that. So finally, I think when I was like 12, I asked my mom, can I be Catholic? Because all my friends were Catholic, and I didn't like Mormon church. So she let us, and because she said, I just wanted to expose you kids to religion, and then it's up to you to make your choice of what you want to do. So we all became Catholic except my older sister and brother, and my mom and dad stayed Mormon and still are Mormon. So anyway, that's beside the point. I don't even know why I went into that. Oh, because that lady asked me if I believe in Jesus, if I was Christian. But now I would say that, if I have to say I'm something, I say I'm Christian. But I'm spiritual. And spiritual is not a religion. I like to join the people who say my religion is love. So spiritual, I believe in Jesus and Moses and, definitely God, or whoever you call your higher power. To me, whatever anybody calls their higher power, whether it's God, Allah, the divine source, universe, it's all the same to me, because the highest power is love. So you can call it anything you want. It's all love. So I don't have any opinion about anybody's God as long as it's love. So anyway, so when she found out I was, I love Jesus and blah, blah, blah. So then she said, I've been having this really bad pain back here. Can you work on it? Now I'm like out of breath, sweating, trying to climb up this hill. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm working on her as we're walking. And as I'm clearing it, I'm seeing that she has some issues with her husband. And seeing that she has some stress there, and I'm clearing and clearing and clearing, and all of a sudden I get to this entity, and I'm like, oh brother, she's got an entity there. And I get that it started just from her husband's negativity, and then so it kind of, the energy attached to her, and then it grew. And some entities will do that. You can create entities just by having consistent bad self-talk about yourself. Or like if you're a kid and you go to school and the kids are saying, oh, you're ugly, you're stupid, you're ugly, and they say it all the time, then that usually creates an entity that just sits right back here, and all it does is tell the kid constantly how stupid and ugly it is day and night. So the kid starts having self-esteem issues, and that's a whole nother thing. So anyway, I'll talk about that too. But so this entity's there, and it tells me that thing. I don't have to leave unless she tells me I have to leave. And I'm like, oh great, I can't tell this woman she's got an entity. She's still not even sure about me and what I do, and I don't want to scare her. So I'm, working on her, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get her to say this entity can lift? And so then I say, do I have permission to release any low negative energies that might be in your space? And she said, yes. And I go, thank you. And I was just like, bam, that was awesome. I felt I could word it in a way that, I can get rid of this thing. And I'm like, you heard her, you've got to go. So then I do the work, and it left pretty easily. But they try to be tricky like that, especially in instances where you can't really very easily tell somebody that they have an entity. So talking about the kids, I do a lot of alternative healing on kids. I have clients of kids that are all over the world. So I do my work remotely, meaning I'm in my location, they're in their location. Many times I have never seen my clients. I have clients that I work on constantly in Canada, in Australia, Africa, just all over the place, Europe. And I actually... Anyway, for some reason, a lot of parents find me and ask me to work on their children. And I have great success rates with kids. Kids are so wonderful to work on because they're still very open to receiving the healing. They remember it. And I do children when they're sleeping because that's when they're going to be the most open. So I can go in there and I can talk to them and see what's going on with them, if their parents are having problems with them, see what their perspective is, see what they need. And, tell their parents. I can see what's bothering them. I can see if there's an entity in their space. And, there's been many times that I've had these kids come to me, usually the ones that are in the age of like 7 to 12. They're having problems in school, getting along with people, or people being very mean to them. And I find these entities on them. And once I start clearing them, all of a sudden they're doing great in school. And their whole life turns around. It's just amazing. So, I mean, I work on kids for other things, not just that. I have quite a few children. I mean, I've worked on babies 4 weeks old that have different physical issues, and very disabled children, and just all kinds. So anyway, just getting rid of those entities changes their lives. So if, those self-created ones, if you're always hearing negative talk about yourself, if somebody's always putting you down and saying mean things, or if you have a bad habit of saying, God, you're ugly, you're fat, you're so stupid, why don't you do better, oh my God, just talking bad about yourself all the time, you create these little balls of energy, and they grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and all they do is feed you negative talk, constant day and night, till you just become more and more negative, and it feels weighing, and it's horrible. And probably find a lot of people don't want to really be around you because you're not very nice, and people can feel that energy. Even if they don't know you have an entity, they can feel if you got some weird vibe with you. And also, there's some people that remove entities from people and then just like toss them away from the person. So now it's out in space, and somebody could be walking by and it jumps right on that other person, which brings me to my other thing. Some entities are attracted by light. They like light. So if you're a light being and you have light, a lot of times they're attracted to you. So it's really, really worth you every day doing your aura work, and every night doing your aura work, meaning you wake up in the morning and you take deep breaths and you connect to your higher power and you just fill yourself with light. And make sure your aura is filled with light. Like, I always picture a color around my aura, or I see the color that my aura is, and a lot of times I'll use that color. Or, color has a frequency and a vibration. So all colors vibrate differently. Sometimes I just need to feel nurtured and cared for and loved, so I'll use pink, because pink always is like love energy to me. Sometimes I use aqua green, or gold if I really want to be, bold and vibrant. It just depends. But always see it like an egg, like you're inside an egg and it's protecting you, and then surrounded by white light. You can use any color, but white light's an all-purpose one. And so no energies can easily attach to you. It's when you don't do that stuff and you walk out into the world and your body is exposed because your energy field is very small, that's when you get sick, number one, and that's when you can pick up on entities. So let me talk about your energy field for a minute. Well, wait, let me finish with the entity thing. So one time I was cleaning my chakras, and there's 7 chakras within your body system, your energy, and each chakra stands for some area of your life. So I was cleaning my chakras, and usually my upper chakras are pretty clean, especially my crown chakra, which is my connection to my source, my God, spirituality. And so usually I'm not finding anything in there. But one time I was cleaning in my chakra, and in the very bottom, it looks like a funnel. In the very bottom, I saw this black ball. It looked like, sorry, I'm moving around. And I started to clean that. I was like, oh, that's weird. So I started to clean it, and sorry, this pillow's in my way. And as I started to clear it, I started pulling it, and it was coming out more and more and more. And pretty soon I was like, what the heck is this? And I'm pulling it and pulling it and pulling it, and it turned out to be like a 8-foot black, it looked like a snake to me. It wasn't an actual snake, but that's what it looked like. And I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? How the heck did that get in there? Because I'm really good at working and clearing my energy on an everyday basis. I mean, once in a while I might forget to, or don't have time to clear it, but I'm always very, very, very aware of my energy. And it somehow just saw my light and jumped right in. And the thing was that at that time, I had been feeling really off. I just had not been feeling good. I don't think I was being like mean or crazy or anything, but I'd just been feeling really, really off, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. When I saw that thing, I said, no wonder that crap was in me. Okay, that was like some gross thing. That was horrible. Another time, I was doing a healing session on a client in person, and whenever I do my healing sessions, I always ask Archangel Michael to surround us and protect us, and don't let any lower energies in, only the highest beings of light. And so I'm working on her, and I'm going along doing my thing, and I get up to like her throat chakra, and I'm sending light in, and I'm working on it, and all of a sudden I start hearing like this crazy talking, like not out loud, but I hear it in my head, and I hear, "You're so stupid. You think you're a healer? You're no healer." And I'm like, what? What was that? And one thing that I'm so confident in is my healing skills. Number one, top of the line. I mean, I'm very confident in my reading skills, my channeling, my anything, any work I do. I am completely over 100% confident in my work. But don't even try to talk to me about my healing work, because I know my stuff. I know my stuff. So I'm hearing this thing and I'm like, what is that? So I'm like not buying into it because I think that's kind of strange and ridiculous because I totally wouldn't believe that. So I continue to work and I hear, you're so stupid. You think you're a healer? You're no healer. You're fake. People are going to find out. You're such a fake. Oh, you're not a healer. So I'm like, what in the heck? I'm like totally like tripping out. And this woman that I was working on, whenever I would do sessions on her, she was so intuitive, she didn't know it. But if I used certain colors or certain visions came up, after the session, she would tell me, oh, I saw this color and I saw that and I saw this. And she would see a lot of what I was either doing or what I was finding and what I was seeing. So I was like, the last thing I wanted her to do was hear these comments that was coming from her. So I took my hand off of her and I stopped working because I was like, I don't want her to hear that. That's crazy. What was that? So I stopped and I just looked at her for a minute. And then I put my hand back again and I started sending white light on there. And right as I start sending this white light, this big dark energy jumps out of her and it stands up right next to me. And it looked like this dark shadow of, I don't know, it kind of looked like the shape of a person actually. And it was taller than me. And it just jumped, like it flew out of her throat chakra and stood next to me. And I was like, what? Like that's like the first time I ever saw anything like that happen. And I know this person, I know she's not like possessed or anything. So I'm like, what the heck? So this was getting weirder by the minute. So now I'm sending the energy still healing on her throat because now that thing came out, I'm like clearing her. And at the same time, I automatically put my hand up and start sending white light to this shadow that's standing next to me. And I'm just like sending the highest, most powerful white light to this thing I possibly can. And within like, I don't know, 8 seconds, it disappears and the whole room immediately shifts and gets like cool, like refreshing cool. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And so now I'm still working on her, and now I'm yelling at Archangel Michael, and I'm saying, Archangel Michael, I told you to protect us when we're doing these sessions, to only keep the highest beings of light here. Why did you let that in here? What was that? And I was just like going off on him, like yelling at him, not out loud, but in my head while I'm working on her, I'm yelling at him. And he said, are you finished? She came in with it. I didn't let it in. She came in with it. And I said, oh, oops, so sorry. Sorry, Archangel Michael, okay. So then I just keep working on her. So then I finish up her session. And she tells me, oh, I feel so much better. You know, I was feeling so off and horrible and feeling really, really bad. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And so it made complete sense. It really, when we find these things when we're doing sessions and we release them out of your space, you feel so much better. And, when you're carrying around an entity or foreign energy with you, it feels bad. So, there's other things too, like just being with someone that you're around all the time, your kids or your spouse or a coworker, you start automatically merging energy because you're around them all the time, and energy naturally always wants to kind of meet and find a middle ground to vibrate with each other. So it's always good to cut cords with people that you're around and do neutral separation. And I have videos on neutral separation and cutting cords on my other YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Cindy Eiler Raw. So it's Cindy Eiler with R-A-W at the end. And it's my raw journey, but we always talk a little bit about raw food, but mostly there's a lot of teaching on there. So cutting cords and neutral separation, you can go watch those videos there. But anyway, those are just kind of entities that you can get. So I was going to tell you something else, and I forgot. So I'm going to just move on. How can you get rid of entities? Well, you can get rid of Well, first of all, this is another thing. How can you call in negative energies around you? By speaking negative. I mean, some people come to me. I've taught some public angel classes, and people come in and they say, what about fallen angels? What about, they want to talk about the negative, dark side of things. And I always say automatically, I don't even go there with my stuff. If you know anything about my childhood and what I grew up with, I mean, I was really scared. I would I started seeing spirits as early as 3 years old that I can remember. And then it got stronger and stronger. And then when my parents divorced, we lived with my grandparents for a while, and they lived in a totally haunted house. And I would see spirits walking through the wall, like scary stuff, like deceased people that were earthbound, or entities, or just spirits. And I had really scary experiences where, like, you could hear them walking up and down the stairs at night, or ironing, or sitting on the end of your bed. Or one time, one tried to smother me and kill me. There was other times, I mean, as I grew up, we moved into other houses, they would shake the bed all the time. Like, it just became like a normal thing for me to deal with, although it was super scary. And I spent most of my younger life trying to block that ability to see and hear and feel them. And I had some really scary stuff happen to me. I wrote a book called Dead People in My Life, and you can get it on Amazon, and it talks about all different kinds of spirits and what I grew up with. So I really know discernment when it comes to working with the spirit world, and that's why a lot of people like to take classes with me, because you want to know who you're working with in the spirit world. I mean, one time this woman came to me for a reading, and she told me she was working at the Holistic Expo and she was going to be doing readings. But she felt insecure about her abilities still. She was pretty new. And so I thought, okay, well, let me give her some pointers. Let me help her a little bit. And so I said, okay, so who do you work with when you're doing your reading? Meaning, like, are you tapping into angels? Are you tapping into ascended masters? Are you talking to God? Who are you working with to give information to the people who are paying you? And she goes, oh, well, I don't really know. I go, you don't really know? She goes, no, I don't know. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so scary. So you go to these psychic fairs, be very careful about who you will get a reading from, because like her, she didn't know who she's getting her information from, and you're going to pay her and she's going to give you some information. She could be getting it from the guy's entities that's standing next to you, or might be an angel if you're lucky. But a message from an angel would be different than a message from an ascended master. An ascended master would be someone like Jesus or Moses or Saint Germain, and it would be somebody that walked the earth, but is looked at as a higher level being, like Jesus, okay? Or even getting a message from aliens or star beings will be different from angels and ascended masters, and getting a message from a spirit guide would be different, and getting a message straight from God would be different from all of them. So when people come to me for a reading, and I'm asking them, who do you want me to get your information from, I tap into whichever light being they want to work with. But if you don't know what you're tapping into, that's really scary, and really that should be against the law to be giving people messages, because you could tell somebody something and they're really believing you, and it could be something that's really not in their highest good, and it could really mess their life up. So just use a lot of discernment when you're going to get a reading from somebody. That's all I got to say. But she didn't even know who she was talking to. So, that's just knowing energies is really important. But if you start messing around, like, let's say a Ouija board, like, my niece was asking me, we have this Ouija board, is it really bad to use it? And, in general, I never really use Ouija boards. My mom gave me that taboo, ooh, they're bad, they're really bad, which makes you kind of want to do it, because you're like, whoa, what could happen? But usually people go in and use Ouija boards with they just gonna communicate with any spirit and get any message. So when you do that, you're opening the door to any spirit to get any message. So you don't know which one's coming through. Whichever the one is the strongest that can push its way through is going to be the one that comes through. But you could certainly use it to call on the angels and get a message from the angels. You could say, I want to talk to Archangel Michael, and Archangel Michael, you're the one that's going to move this thing and talk to me. So you could certainly set your intention for it. It's all divination, just like reading oracle cards or tarot cards. If you channel beings that aren't nice, you're going to get those that's why people are afraid of tarot cards, because of the death card and whatever else. I read tarot cards and I give beautiful readings because I'm tapping into the angel messages, and they're the ones giving me the information. And the death card usually in my readings means there's an old part of you that's dying and you're ready to renew, and there's a new life starting for you. So it just all depends on who you're working with and what kind of messages you're going to get. So to invite negative energies around you would be to talk about them. If you sat in a room and started talking about negative beings, you're just bringing them in automatically. So you just don't do that. You just don't go there. And if you're around people who do that, you just leave. Don't sit there and do that, or counter it by just calling in the angels and asking Archangel Michael to be there. So anyway, this video is getting way long, and I need to tell you how to get rid of entities. So the best way is to use white light. Okay, dark energy cannot stay with white energy. White is light. White is God. White is source, divine. You cannot have low energy, dark energy survive white energy. The white energy will always win. The white energy will always clear the dark. So that when I was doing that energy healing on that woman, and that thing was telling me that I was not a good healer or whatever, it was doing that hoping that I would stop working on her throat because it wanted to stay inside of her. And as long as I was sending in that light, it knew it was going to have to leave. Eventually, it'll try to stay. It'll try to stick in. But it knew that if I kept working, and I found it especially, even if I didn't find it and I kept sending in light, it would have to leave. So it was trying its hardest to get me to back off and be shocked and move on and not continue to work there. But I stopped for a minute, and then I went back, and I'm not going to leave a person. If I'm hearing that sort of thing, I'm going to stay there till I figure out what it is. So, the more I kept working on it, it finally had to jump out. It didn't jump out because it wanted to jump out. It was forced out because the dark cannot stay in the light. So just imagine that you've got laser light coming from your hand. So it's coming straight from divine, straight from God to your hand, and you're just like a laser light. And imagine, like, say it was like attached to a throat or something. Just work it. Work it until you peel it off and let it go. Or if it's something that's out here, just keep shining that white light on it until it'll go. And then when you're removing it, make sure that you're imagining or visualizing it going straight up to God. Okay? Make sure you follow that entity. Make sure you follow that entity all the way up to God. Okay, don't leave it tossed out into the energy so it can jump on someone else. Make sure you follow it all the way to the light. And so if you're not sure if you're doing this, or you're not sure if you're seeing one, you're not sure if you're getting it off, you're not sure if it's going to the light, what I tell you to do is, if you could imagine it, if you could see it, work on it as if you could see it. So if you think that if you feel like somebody's got something here that's negative, there's no problem in removing anything that's negative. And the white light is love. That is God. So you can always send love energy to anybody because that is their natural energy of divinity. So you don't bring it through you like Reiki people, like drag energy through them and then out their hands. And I'm not putting anybody down, but really, I would never take healing from anybody that would drag energy through their energy and then put it to me. Because once you start dragging energy through you and sending it to somebody else, you're sending dirty energy to somebody with your stuff. I don't want somebody's stuff. Hell no. Sorry. And I'm not putting anybody down. I think Reiki has its place, and if people are into that, they should do that. Absolutely do it. But for me, personally, if anybody's going to do any energy work on me, I want it to purely come straight to my hand or straight from source to their hand, and all they're doing with their hand is using it to direct it. I don't need any energy coming through any person and putting their stuff into me. No way. So I know energy. Energy is one of my niches. I know about energy, and I know about DNA healing, and I know about spirits. I'm very, very versed on this stuff. I know my stuff. And there's no way I want to take on any energy that's been dragged through anybody else. Anyway, I think I made that point. Anyway, so if you think there's one, imagine where you think it might be on the person, and then just visualize, or I say pretend, you're sending the white light on it until you see it leave, and then pretend like you see it go straight up to God until it's all the way infused to the light where it's transmuted into light. Because when you pretend, you're actually doing it. So just do it that way. If you could see it, where would it be? And if you could see it, you would see the white light infusing it, and you could imagine it going up to the light and being transmuted to light. So anyway, this video's gone on way too long. I hope you've learned about entities and that this will help you. So if somebody's been really negative and off or in a bad, crappy mood, check around their energy and just see. And you can always ask the angels to help you. Ask the angels to help clear somebody. Call on Archangel Michael. He's great at removing entities, or Archangel Raphael, who's the healing angel. Great, great, great. Anyway, if you like this video, share it on your Facebook. Tell your friends about it. Subscribe to my videos at the button above. And I'm talking about if you're viewing this in the YouTube screen. And in the YouTube screen, there is a like button below. Please like these videos. And friend me on Facebook, Cindy Eiler. Anyway, hope to see you guys again soon, and I hope you found this very good information, and have a wonderful night, and many angel blessings, and lots of love.